What's up, everybody? For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Kevin. I'm one of the commissioners here at the league, the sequel, as we're calling it. The second time we've started one of these leagues. So I just want to give you guys a little prep before the draft this coming Sunday. So hope everyone's excited. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I think I'm doing this right. I don't know what you guys can see, but it's crazy on my screen. So I'm thinking I did it wrong. So hold on one second. Try that again. Okay, so, okay, I think it's working now. So what I have up, if you go to the Yahoo League, under draft over here, you can see mock drafts. So if you've never done an auction draft before, I highly recommend doing one of these mock drafts. It's not very valuable as far as like how people bid. Usually they only are half full and there's a bunch of computers making bids that don't make sense, but you'll understand how to make bids and how fast it goes. So there's one starting in 2 minutes here. I'm just gonna join so we can see how fast it goes. We got a 12-person league. And these are auction mock drafts. That's what I would suggest you do. So we're waiting now to run the auction mock draft so we can see what that's like. Just real quick, I won't go through the whole draft. In addition to that, we've got the Google Doc here. So this is what the Google Doc looks like. Across the bottom, we've got different tabs or whatever, and we'll go through all this in a little more detail, but on the far right is the rules tab here. So you click on that. These are the detailed rules going all the way down here. So there's a big, I don't know how many lines, 300 line rule here for all the details of the league. So it looks super confusing, but bear with us. We'll help get through it. And the basics of it are still just fantasy basketball. So you guys who are new will do good. And you guys who have done this before should be excited. So we got another minute, 30 seconds here. I'll just show you the front page of the Google Doc here. So in this top left corner here where it says #ref, #ref, that'll actually be where we do in-season free agents. So we'll get to that later, but that'll be a hyperlink to something that's not created left. But this is kind of just like the open forum discussion area where you can say who you're looking to trade, suggestions for improvement. And this red box is players who are on the injured reserve spot for each team, and it automatically pulls that data from the team page and all that. So all this is little, trades that have happened, amnesty players, all that sounds kind of confusing because I haven't explained any of that yet. But this is just kind of like the default front page of where you can see some basic info. Then each owner has their own team page that will look like this. So this will be my team page. You'll have your players down here, and then their contracts going out into the future down the columns here. Let's say my first player was getting 20 million this year and 20 million next year. You'll see the cap math due up here. So cap used, cap remaining, and it also has some equations here for the amount per player you could average out to bid and what the maximum bid would be for any one player. So we'll get into this a little more here. The draft is loading, so I'll just show you the auction draft real fast. I believe you'll be able to hear it all. In the meantime, I'll just throw some dummy numbers in here for later that should help you. Thought that would go a lot faster. So sorry for the delay. I know you guys' time is precious. But yeah, hope everything is recording the way it's supposed to, or I'm going to waste about 20 minutes here. So obviously you guys should all know by now that the initial draft will be an auction draft just like this. So we'll all log in, do our auction draft, and what we are bidding is the salary for year one, or what our league calls the base year salary. So auction, player 1 here, I would have bid $20 on. Player 2 here would have been a $15 bid. Player 3 would have been a $10 bid. And we'll get to what they look like in the future past year 1. But the auction is just bidding year 1. So it'll be a little different in this auction. It's going to default to a $200 budget for each owner. Ours is going to be set at $95 for each owner. So all 12 of us will have $95 to spend on 12 players going down. And you'll have, the cap is at 100 mil. So each dollar is 1 million of salary. And so there's 5 million built in of wiggle room. So this is what it looks like here. So there's only actually 2 humans in this draft and 8 robots who are just going to bid super fast. But the draft starts in 45 seconds. You have this timer up here to the left. You've got different tabs going across here. One says players, teams, draft results, standings. So the most important thing I think about an auction draft the first time I did one is it goes really fast. It's really surprising how much faster it goes than a snake draft back and forth. The whole thing will probably be done in about an hour and a half. So it will have a projected value. Again, this number says 68 because it's assuming 200 million or $200 for the auction. And average cost is what people on Yahoo have bid. Our projected values will be a lot more accurate. It'll say something like 34, 32, something like that, which would be 32 million. So we each take turns nominating players. So it's my turn to nominate. It gives me 30 seconds. I can pick any player I want to nominate. It defaults kind of just to their pre-Yahoo ranked players. But if I put Kevin Durant up, I can nominate for $1 up here in the top left. He's now on the block. There's 30 seconds for the auction, and people can raise the bid. It jumped to $76 because the robot made a bid of just what it thinks it'll go to right away. For us, it'll probably take a little slower than just jumping all the way up. But when the timer hits 0, that player is over, and the next one will go up. So I think it'll always go up to 10 seconds if someone raises the bid. So I'm going to wait till like 2 seconds and raise the bid here to $77. And so now there's 10 seconds left. So if no one raises me in the 10 seconds, which someone did, the robot wanted to raise me, so I'll let him win Kevin Durant here. He will have him for $78. Down the left-hand column here, I'll let this buzz. So he drafted. So then the next player gets nominated. They'll throw Steph Curry or whoever up on the block. So Steph Curry got nominated for $1. I'll bid $2. Someone bid $3. You can just click to raise one, or you can click in here and say, I want to go to 79, which is what Team 6 did. But as you go down, you can see how much money each team has left, how many players they have left to draft, what their maximum bid is. You can change it to this. So the guy who just bid on Durant can only bid $111 million because that will save $1 for everybody else, or what the average bid comes out to per player. So all that information is there for you. The teams tab lets you see what your team is like. And then this little 4 corners things will let people know position-wise. So Team 6 has drafted 1 point guard and 1 small forward. And again, all this will be specific for our league settings, which are slightly different than now. But just so you guys get a feel of how fast it goes, you're only going to have 30 seconds to make your decisions as the whole thing goes. So if you've never played with it, just do one and you can get a feel for it. So I'm just going to X out of this right now. But just so you guys could see that. In addition, so that was again, I went to draft, mock drafts. They have these pre-draft values. So because I'm logged into our league right now, this is what like the normal auction values are, 68 or whatever. And again, those don't really apply to us because we have different settings. So if you go to edit pre-draft values, now you'll see what our league's settings are that Yahoo has determined. So the league value right here, this column, is what Yahoo has said they think Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, James Harden are worth dollar amount wise. So the top player would be 35. And again, for our league, that'd be 35 million out of your 100 million cap space. And then this is a my value. So if you want to manually adjust, so if I think Durant is worth at least 40, I could type in 40 here. And then when the auction starts, it will, instead of saying, 35 suggested price, it'll say 40 suggested price. So if you really like somebody, I could scroll down and say, I know this is the year of Otto Porter. I want to make sure I don't pay any less than 20 mil for him. You can just set yourself a reminder. Same thing if you think Kristaps Porzingis is a bunch of Kristaps, and you can drop them down and say, I'm not paying any more than 5. It doesn't do anything. It'll still let you bid whatever you want during the auction, but it'll be the price, like suggested retail price, if you will, for you, that sometimes it's quicker and easier to go off of. If you know you're going to be there for the draft, it's not really a big deal. But if you want a better idea of more accurate numbers versus 68, no one's going to go for 68 out of 100 mil in our league. 35 is a more accurate number. So those are there, and those are what will be there on draft day. So back to the Google Doc. So detailed rules over here, each player. So let's say I had bid 20 mil for Durant. I'm just going to put him in, and this could have been Eric Bledsoe, and this could have been Kristaps Porzingis. We'll have our player names going down the left here, what their salary is going forward. And originally, that'll just look like this. It'll just be 1 year with each of the salaries going down for how much we bid on each of them. I went over. So each of those guys. Obviously, the more you spend on top guys, the less you have to spend on the bottom tier guys. After the draft is over, and we have our initial players loaded in like this, we have options for how you want to structure your team moving forward. So the first rule is you have to decide whether it's the contract is under 20 million, like players 2 through 12 for me, or over 20 million or over, like Durant. Anybody at 20 million or over is a required 2-year to 4-year contract. Anybody under 20 million is a 1 to 3-year contract. So you can't bid, 50 million on somebody and have it only be 1 year, and you can't bid 1 million on someone and have it stretch out 4 years. So that's just a stipulation that we have in for stupid hacking reasons behind the scenes. But then you choose how many years you want the contract to be. So I'll flip over to the rules tab here, and I'm just going to scroll down to what our veteran contracts look like. So there's 3 variables, I'll try and highlight them here, that make up a contract in our league. The 3 variables are base year salary, contract length, and then percent increase or decrease. So base year salary is what it sounds like, just how much money they're going to get paid this year. Contract length is what it sounds like, how many years they'll get paid for. And then percent increase or decrease is how much that contract will either increase or decrease over time. The math is not necessarily intuitive when you first start to do it. So you take the change for year 1 and then just extrapolate. So if you say you have a 10% increase, it doesn't go 10 million plus 10% is 1 million. So year 1 would be 10 million, year 2 would be 11 million, and then year 3 would be 12 million. So because it went up a mil, it just goes up a mil again. It's not compounding interest, if that makes sense. But you will see the explanation of the variables. And I just actually noticed an error. This is supposed to be 20. That's what we're here for. That's why this is a dry one. But that will explain how contracts go up or down. For this initial draft, your contract options are in the email, so you don't have to remember this. But if it's a 1 or 2-year contract, the base year salary just stays flat. So like Durant, if I say he wants a 20-year contract, that's 2020 for a 2-year contract. If Bledsoe, I wanted a 2-year contract and I want to keep him flat, 15-15. If I want to do a 3-year contract, let's say for Kristaps, I want a 3-year contract, it's actually a 5% increase. So 5% of 10 is $500,000. So he'd be 10.5 and 11. And just to make sure I'm doing this math right, equal 10 times 1.05. Yes, 10.5. This went up 0.5, so this goes up 0.5 again to 11. It's not compounding interest, so it's like 11.11 or whatever. Everything's always rounded to the nearest tenth of a million. So when things get real funky in the future, you don't have like hundredths of a million for contracts. And then anything that's going to go 4 years, and again, remember 4 years had to be 20 million or more, there'll be a 10% increase. So this would be 22, 24, 26. If I decided to do a 4-year contract for Durant. So obviously the benefit is you get guys locked down for longer term. The negative is their price goes up over time, and so you have to choose how to play that balance there. So we'll all do our contracts like that, build them in here. If you decide, oh, I love my team, I want everyone on longest term possible contracts, but you have a lot of increasing contracts, or let's say you have somebody at a really high contract. Let's say you have somebody at 50, and then they're going 55, 60, 65. You know, the difference between 50 and 65 is a pretty good chunk. You would only have, under this scenario, I'd only have 19.5 million cap remaining for next year, and then 29 and 35 for future years. Obviously, these numbers add up to 125 million, which is over the limit. So it kind of gives you this red, you know, you're over the cap. It breaks the per player remaining here because it's trying to divide by 0 because the whole roster is full. There are no players remaining. And the max bid is red because you've over, you know, it's just erroring the whole thing because you can't bid on somebody once you're already over. This is said you can't divide by 0 for per player remaining over here, and that shouldn't say that, and I will fix that. So good dry run to make sure you get the bugs out. Oh, it's because it's actually looking at the wrong column. So there you go. So you could see that next year, if I went with a contract structure like this, a team like this, next year I'd only have 2.2 remaining per player to bid, and my max bid would only be 20 million for a player. Because if I bid any more than that, I wouldn't be able to fill out the roster. So you get some of the details there, and you can decide, okay, well, if this is going to be the case, maybe I don't want to give Kristaps this contract. That gives me a little more wiggle room next offseason, and I can decide to put my team together however I want. One additional thing is after all the contracts are set, you get to choose one player, one of your 12 players here, to add a team option to the end of their contract. So let's say I had this setup again here, and I really think Durant is going to be, you know, just God's gift to basketball over the next 4 years, but this is risky paying 65 million. I'm going to choose Durant to be my team option guy. So again, you're going to have to choose one of these 12, but you choose one of your 12. We got the team option in orange here. So this 65 million is non-guaranteed salary. So it counts it in the math up here. But if after the 2018-2019 season, let's say Durant breaks his ankle or Durant just becomes an average player and he's not worth anywhere near 2/3 of my salary, in this offseason between year 3 and year 4, between 2018-19 and between 2019-20, I can choose to let him go without penalty. Normally, when we drop players in this league, you have a penalty to play called a cap hold. So those will go down here under the released cap hold and penalties. And the cap holds are really part of what make this league fun. You're kind of tied to the contracts you give out, sort of like the real NBA. So if you're just going to drop somebody for no reason because they're not playing as good, you actually owe 75% of their contract value this year plus 50% for the years going out. So if I was, to make the math easy for me, I've got Kristaps at 10 mil 3 years, and let's say he takes the Darko leap here and just decides to start MMA fighting. Well, that's a bad example, but let's just say he starts sucking and I don't want him on my team anymore. If I'm going to drop Kristaps, I would have to choose a better name that's not so hard to type, but Kristaps, I would owe 7.5, which is 75% of the 10 mil here, plus 5 mil, plus 5 mil here. So I'm paying him, let's just do this real fast so it's not red and barking at me. Whatever, I'll keep it up. Okay, so I'm paying him to essentially not play for me. So I had 10 million allocated here. Now to replace him for the same amount of money, I could only spend 2.5 million on somebody, and then in the future 5 and 5 million. The other option is if I've been really frugal with my money and I have somebody I don't like that, and I don't want to keep paying the penalty for 3 years, this would be what we call a drop. We also have what we call a buyout option. So if instead of paying for 3 years, I can take the sum of the 3-year cost, which is 17.5, and I can pay all that money in this year, and that will cover me so I don't have future cap holds, more flexibility down the road, but I have to take the bigger hit right now. So you have 2 options for dropping players, both again costly, either hurting your long-term flexibility or hitting your pocketbook a bunch in the short term. So with the initial draft, again, all of the original salaries will be what you bid in the auction. So base year salary equals the auction number. We'll have $95 to spend, and each dollar you spend is 1 million here. Then you choose one of your 12 guys to create a team option for it to give yourself flexibility. It doesn't have to be your longest term contract. It doesn't have to be your highest paid contract. If you say, I got CJ McCollum here. I mean, you wouldn't do a 1-year contract is the only thing, because if you pick them, you want them. But someone 2 to 4 years, the final year you put the team option on. Then in the future, we'll have a different means of doing off-season free agency. So I know that was kind of a lot. I know it's kind of confusing the way I said it all, but my biggest tip right now is do a practice auction draft before Sunday. And then Sunday, we'll put our team together and you'll have some time to play with these contracts to decide how you want them forward. If you need help with the math, we can come over here to free agency. So this is how we do free agency in the future. And this, don't worry too much about all the details of this because it'll be explained again, probably another video in another time. But, player 1, I can get in here and play around and I'll say, okay, let's say I bid 12. I bid 12 million during the auction. Well, I know I have the option of 1 or 2 years at a 0% increase. My contract would be 12-12. It shows it to you over here on the right. But let's say, I might have wanted that 3-year, and with the 3-year, I have to give the 5% raise. These are my contracts. It'd be 12, 12.6, 13.2. So I can then take these numbers and throw them back in over here and say, okay, it was 12, 12.6, 13.2. I can play with it and build exactly how I want my team to go moving forward. Again, let's say it was 20, or let's say I bid 35 on Durant, right? I bid that huge number. And I'm looking at that 4-year option, which is a 10%. It tells me, okay, it was 35, 38.5, 42, and 45.5. So you can always play with it here to help with the math. And then again, we will use this page later next offseason for more free agency. So some other things just to show you, going down the bottom here, the rules tab, we said before, all the details of all the specifics. There's a lot more for the rest of the league, but this will get us set for the beginning, what we've gone over now. Record book is just, we put our places in here, and usually we do some sort of collection of stats and stuff like that from the year. That'll all be put there. It'll be good to look back later. After the season's over, we'll do a rookie draft. So for those guys coming in who will be NBA rookies, they will do a traditional snake draft. So based on last year finishing, we'll put odds in for the lottery, which is what this is. Spin the ping pong balls, and based on which ping pong ball is drawn, that'll set the order for the lottery, and then the rest of us will pick an order. We'll make our selection, and then there's different contract options, A, B, C, D, E. But the rookie draft will all be done there. Here, which isn't fully built, but you can load up the team. Kevin, am looking to trade with Jimmy. It loads up our actual rosters, and so then I could say I'm looking to get rid of Durant and give Durant to Jimmy. It'll do the math that my 50 million salary is going to him. It lets you know how much cap space you have, all that. So this isn't actually fully built. Sorry, this isn't fully built. I'll finish building it before we get into the season. But you'll have a little trade machine here. You can do 3-team or 4-team trades. If you want to do 5 or more owners in a trade, contact Josh Glitz, who is the trade guru, and he will explain to you what's wrong with you both. I hope that explains everything. Kind of got every owner has their own team page. You'll be able to edit all this information as you make ads, drops, all that. If there's any questions with the math, let anybody, me, myself, Glitz, or John know, especially me or myself. Let us both know, and you'll be able to get some help there. There's more to come, more rules. Don't want to bog you down too much before before getting past the initial draft. So as far as long-term, what you need to be looking ahead, it's not really, I don't know, in my opinion, it's not that critical. The idea is to have value, right? So if Durant is worth 55 million, then obviously if you get him for 50, it's a good value year one, it's at value year two, and if you're going to give him a 4-year contract, you're behind value year 3 and year 4. But you're just trying to build the best possible fantasy team for a regular standard 9-category league based on the 100 million cap space. So guys who are undervalued, you want to keep them as long as possible, and then guys who you overpaid for or you think are at value, you probably want to throw them back earlier. That's the basic strategy. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions, you let me know, and we will. I'm gonna try and stop screencasting here. So hopefully you guys got all that. So I honestly don't know. It looked really funky on my screen. I really hope you saw what I was clicking around on. But if you have any questions, let me know. Initial draft this Sunday. Make sure if you haven't accepted your invitation to the league yet, I think there's a few of you left. Dig through your emails from Josh Glitz. It's coming from Yahoo. To actually join the league, because that's where you'll do the auction draft. So hope this was helpful. There's a lot more, not a lot more, but there's like a summary of kind of what I went over on the actual email written, so you'll have that too. And let me know if you guys have any questions. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. Peace.